Ron. DFS PGA show for the British, aka Open Championship, this week for 2024, the final major of the year. My good friend and colleague Ron Kloss is next to me to break it all down for us. Ron, what's up?
Man, we have to wait 9 months for the next major after this. So yeah, this is going to be a great tournament ahead of us. The variables of wind, weather, undulating terrain, unpredictable lies, I think that, to me at least, makes the Open so enjoyable to watch. And yeah, I think if you go back and look at past winners, you kind of frequently, kind of see the doors left open for kind of unexpected champions. And so, yeah, I'm all about, taking naps in the middle of the day. So try to stay up all night watching this action. And in my opinion, I know people have different thoughts, but it's my favorite major.
Yeah, I can't say it's my favorite major. August, the Masters is it's my baby. I love that, but it's probably my second, obviously. And I think it's just because it's unique. It's the organic golf game. It's the OG kind of what the guys were doing back when they were still working at the steel mill kind of stuff. So looking forward to seeing which blue collar bandit can come out on top this week. Ron, what are you plugging into the rabbit hole to kind of get an edge, to kind of create your own narrative? How have you identified golfers based off your unique approach in the rabbit hole this week?
Yeah, so I think Link's experience, Link's history, I think that's huge this week. In the rabbit hole, we do have the Link's course filter. So obviously, we still only have PGA Tour data right now, and so I kind of went back and did the research and went through, pretty much every Links course on the DP World Tour as well. And I kind of posted a complete Links history. And that's obviously still on Twitter as well. So anyone can go look that up still. But yeah, just trying to get a picture of, obviously, as you know, there's just massive differences between the weekly PGA courses and a course like this. This is not a hybrid Links course. This is a classical. I mean, we're talking 1800s right on the coast here in Western Scotland. So this is as real of a Links as it gets. And I think ball striking, we always talk about, every week, of course, ball striking is important. But this is a different type of Open where, especially with all the crosswinds that are forecast, Byron, these are the smallest open greens from any course in the rotation. I kind of estimated around 4,500 square feet, which is, even on the PJ Tour, these would be the fifth smallest greens. And so there's trouble everywhere off the tee as well. And so, looking at things like other courses that have a high missed fairway penalty, these are some of the toughest at this course here at Troon, toughest fairway bunkers in the entire world. And so, obviously we want distance, but I think accuracy is just at such a premium just to get especially when you get to this back nine. Like if you're playing from bunkers, if you're playing from the rough, from, some of these areas with all this gorse, like it's going to be such a challenge on that back nine. And so I think it kind of all starts with accuracy off the tee. And then I think the ball strikers, the guys who, play well with their irons into these small greens, I think this is a real chance for them to separate themselves. And of course, around the green play is always going to be important, especially with smaller greens. Guys are going to miss. So I think scrambling and it's going to be a tee to green test. Obviously, slower greens. I think that's another thing people are kind of forgetting a little bit, is you're going to have to adapt, especially some of these guys who didn't play the Scottish Open last week. They're going to have to adapt to these slower greens.
Yes, I think that's a very good summary of what we can expect this week, Ron. For me, when I'm looking for winners, I need second place finishes in majors. That's basically my kind of key rule this week. Major pedigree has to be on the cards there. Pretty much since 2012, anyone that's won an Open Championship has finished first or second in a major prior to that. So you have to dominate the majors and see what cooks from there on out. So let's get into it, man. We got so many good golfers to talk about, Ron, and we've got so many guys that are enticing, but this Open Championship kind of provides us the opportunity to kind of really pick these guys apart, because I think with the course playing very easy to start and very difficult to end, you need to be able to make birdies. You got to be able to avoid bogeys. You got to play well in majors. You got to check probably the most boxes out of any major tournament we've handicapped for quite some time. So I think this course is going to really provide a true test for all-round golfers, and who's better to be top of the pile than Scotty Scheffler at 12-8 and Bryson DeChambeau, Rory McIlroy, and Xander Schauffele in the 11K range. Let's chat about those four guys first. and tell me who your favorite guy is in this spot.
And yeah, to start off, so I think, I don't know if you've seen anything differently. I know, obviously, this is a very important week, and there's DFS weeks completely decided, when we have weather wave advantages. And so a couple things. So first of all, everybody's teeing off the first hole.
Yes.
And it's just this is one of the things I love about the Open is it's just one group after another. So it's not like, you have a group that specifically tees off in the afternoon. It's just, we're talking 6:30 in the morning. And I think the last group, this is local time, last group tees off at like 4:15 in the afternoon. And so it's just golf all day. And obviously the sun sets a little later over here, so they can afford to do that. And so, yeah, I think, just right now, I think some of these top guys, a lot of these top guys like Rory especially, are kind of teeing off in the AM wave, which means they're playing in the PM on Friday. And so I think looking right now, there is, in my opinion, it's a slight PM AM advantage. I think the winds are dying down on Friday morning for a good 3 to 4 hours. And again, when we say dying down, they're still blowing, but
12 miles an hour.
Yeah, it's picking up in the afternoon. So yeah, this is one of the things you just have to check by the hour. Like you just have to keep checking through the night. And but yeah, that's kind of where I see it right now, because I know people always want to hear different our opinions on advantages. So that's where I see it, and I'll let you talk about that after I talk about this top group if you see anything different. But yeah, for me, like I'm mostly fading this top of the board here with Scheffler and DeChambeau, and can you fit in Scotty lineups even at his price of 12.8? Yes, but after Pinehurst, he admitted that he kind of hates unpredictability in golf courses, and that's the definition of link style golf. And so I can see him maybe even getting frustrated trying to adapt to the slower green speeds as well. Of course he fits everywhere. You can't, I don't think, when you have a course like this where you have to find fairways, look, there's nobody better than Scotty at off the tee, ball striking, all these things. But if I'm playing 20 lineups or less, I'm probably full fading him. If I'm mass multi-entering and I'm playing 150, I probably will still play him in 5 to 10 lineups and kind of mix him in with my favorite core plays. And it's kind of very similar with Bryson for me. He did prove me wrong at Pinehurst, but he has only one career top 30 in 9 starts on links courses. And, he's going to have to show patience off the tee. And unlike Pinehurst, when he kind of caught every break when he was wild off the tee, I don't think he's going to be able to get away with it this time. I think, there's danger everywhere at Troon if you're offline. So I'm kind of, I think Rory and Xander just below them here as we kind of look at these guys above 10K. They're probably very safe plays. I think, Xander only has 1 top 10 and 6 opens. I don't think it's a great fit for Rory unless he comes in with a specific game plan to play conservative, especially on the back 9. And I just don't really think he has shown that he can play strategic enough at the moment, at least, to win. And so, I think I'll be sprinkling those 2 guys to start with. But for me, like the guy above 10K, I'm going with Jon Rahm here. I'm going to take the ownership play. I've heard enough positive chatter from people on site watching him in practice rounds. He's got the 4th best strokes gained average on links courses at 1.90 and 52 career rounds. And I just don't think there's any way he wants to go through 9 months of waiting until the next major with how horrible he's been with this past year's performance on his resume. And so this is kind of, to me, it's kind of his last chance at redemption this year to kind of quiet some of the critics. And so Rahm is going to be kind of my main play up here in the 10K and above range.
Interesting, because, to start the week off, I was anticipating Jon Rahm, to be sub 10% in ownership. And I'm seeing projections of 11, 13, 14. I don't believe that. With Ludwig, Collins, Xander, Rory all around him, he's not that enticing, Ron. And maybe those 14% ownership projections kind of maybe reverse steam him, and kind of pull him back into the 6, 7, 8, 9% range that I was hoping to kind of play around. And I think that's where I'll be going as well as a leverage option. I will be heavily invested in Rory. I've bet him outright as well at 8.5 to 1. I don't know, Ron. I think he's been driving the ball incredibly well the last few weeks. I mean, he's with the distance he has, he's actually, I think, 3 or 4 of the last 5 tournaments he's played, he's been above average in accuracy as well. So we've got a combination of total driving, which I think is imperative this week. And I think Rory probably, when he's feeling it, can do that the best. Obviously, he's played great golf at Open Championships in the past, regardless of weather. And, you know, we got some weather this week. So another thing that I want to mention about the golf course, Ron, Scottish weather has been very wet lately. So I think this course will be playing a little softer than most Open Championships in the past, right? So think about what Rory does best. He loves these like venues where his ball lands, it stops kind of thing. I don't think it'll be stopping and where it lands exactly, but it's a bit softer than typical Open Championships. And I think that'll favor Rory in particular. It'll make the course a bit longer and more, you know, less narrow, because once the ball bounces, it will stop rolling kind of thing. So I'm all in on Rory. 11-4. Give it to me, baby. Let's go what we can do. I feel like his upside is always just going to be there as well. You know, I think he's going to be hanging around, see what he can get up to in the 11-4 range over here. So Xander, since the PGA Championship run, it's like, you know, his ceiling has collapsed, but the floor is still there essentially. And, you know, I've got that top 10 parlay, which is 40-1 on Xander for top 10s in all 4 majors. And I'm nervous because I found Bet365's offering a top 16 or worse at -120. So I can't even hedge out on that. So Xander's going to have to do his thing. I hope he finishes inside the top 10, but I don't think he will. So we'll leave him alone. What about Ludwig, Ron?
Yeah, I think you can play him for sure. I think I'm not going to say he's collapsed down the stretch, but, you know, he has had some issues on Sunday, you know, 2-shot lead going into the Scottish. And, yeah, I don't know if it's nerves or whatever, but I think there's a glut of players in the 9K range that I feel more comfortable playing. Now, obviously, we all know Aberg. He's got upside. He's already won a tour. He's been close in majors already. So I don't think that's an issue. It's just I don't think he has maybe the most links experience. Obviously, growing up in Sweden, he's probably played on some of these courses, you know, coastal. But yeah, I have a little more confidence in guys further down here. So are you like completely out on Scotty and Bryson?
Likely. I don't think I'm going to be playing too many lineups this week. I'm kind of picking and choosing my battles. So I'll probably throw one or two Rahm single entries, and the rest of them will all be Rory, and go from there. I'm kind of keeping it tight this week. It's going to be a great week or a very bad week for me, Ron. So I think that's how we're going to roll. We're going to have ourselves a good week, I believe. So my thing with Ludwig, though, is I loved him when the weather seemed calm. You know, so if he can just make it to Saturday when the weather seems really calm, I like him a lot, because the around the green stuff has really been an issue, especially under pressure. You know, when he's been nervous, US Open on hole 14, I think he chipped himself out of it there. And then again on that par 5 last week, you know, pretty much sealed his fate. So in the wind, he's going to be chipping a lot more than we expect. Maybe he can kind of handle it early in the week. Sunday, we'll have to wait and see. But I don't mind him. I think he can, you know, optimize his skill set at this venue if he really plays the best golf. So, Ron, in the 9s, you said you got some guys you like here. I don't know. There's warts on the majority of these dudes in this range for me. So that's why I think I'm a big fan of Rory up top there, because I'll be playing a lot of him and probably jumping into the 8s right after that.
Yeah, so my biggest issue in this range is just there is a lot of ownership. So you're going to have to get different in some other areas. And so I think you probably know where I'm going here with Colin Morikawa at 9-9. You know, look, there's few players who are entering this championship with a combination of elite form, and if you want to go back and look at some pretty good performances on links courses like he has had, he's got 5 top 4 finishes, hasn't finished worse than 16th over the past 3 months. Of course, he won the Open back in 2021, just finished 4th on, you know, kind of a links hybrid course at the Scottish Open. And so, yeah, I mean, on a course that demands fairways, it demands elite ball striking with these small greens. Again, I think it's just a great venue for him to separate himself with his irons. And there's just few players that I trust more at this price level for a high finish than Morikawa. And so that's kind of where I stand on him. I know his ownership is getting up there, 24%, maybe even higher as the night goes on. I think you
What
got
about the
Terrell.
wind run for Colin?
um,
Because
he is so looking at the rabbit hole here, and I don't have the exact number in front of me, but I believe he is in the top 15 when you actually dig into the numbers and you look at winds of 19 plus miles an hour. So, um, again, I know other people, there's an eye test. Maybe he's struggled in some events with wind. But looking at the data, which has been, I've gathered it pretty closely. So that does not concern me when I saw that number. So
and his 2 missed cuts after being the champion golfer of the year.
yeah, I just think his form. I know he's playing very confidently. He's been so close, and so just looking at, I didn't compile many trends this week, but I know looking at some of the ones other people have put together, like he kind of does check a lot of boxes, and so um, yeah, I'm just kind of going with my gut as well. So when I just kind of everything lining up for me, so I got an 18-1 outright on him. He's my top play from a betting perspective as well. So, and then yeah, like you look kind of below him here, and you have 2 of the best links players anywhere in Terrell Hatton and Tommy Fleetwood. Hatton has been the best player on Live this year. He's contended at 2 of the 3 majors. He was 5th here at Troon in 2016. And I think he's a guy who, and this is what kind of scares me a little bit with him and Fleetwood, is their floors are so high. Hatton has made the cut in 11 straight majors. So, these are guys who they're going to be there. They're going to get through. Do they have the upside? And again, that's what scares me a little with Fleetwood. Really, even and Hatton, both of them. And so even with Fleetwood, like at 9-3, I don't expect him to win because he just never does. But it's obviously he loves this event. He's got 4 top 12s in his last 5 opens. He kind of checks every statistical box if you're looking at accuracy off the tee on high miss fairway penalty courses, if you want scrambling on slow greens, putting on slow greens, bogey avoidance. So I think from a DFS perspective, if you can get different in other areas, I think he's a great kind of core piece to build around. And then my last guy in this 9K range, I'll touch on him briefly. And ownership, maybe a little lower than I would have expected. I'm seeing about 8-9% on Brooks Koepka right now at 9K flat. And so, look, he dropped. I don't know where he is now, but I think yesterday afternoon he dropped to 55-1 to win. And I mean, I kind of had to take that just out of principle alone. And I'm worried about his putting, but his major upside, even here, I think it's still as high as anyone in this price range. And so, I mean, everyone thinks about U.S. Open, PGA. He dominates those. He has 3 top 6s in Opens since 2017. So he knows how to play these courses. Again, before he came on tour, he played on the DP World Tour. He played on these links courses all around the world. So I think Koepka's another guy similar to Rahm, maybe, he just has the talent. He has the ability to pop, and I'm willing to take that chance on him this week again.
I think I'm going to join you on Brooks there, Ron. I think, it's also interesting because we saw him suck it up at the PGA Championship with the putter as well, but he was having to make so many birdie putts there. I think, there's a different mentality, and I think that's something that I'm kind of curious to see is putts made for birdie, putts made for par. Like, I feel like Matthew Fitzpatrick is 10 times better making par putts than birdie putts kind of thing, So Brooks, I feel like, is a similar kind of guy. 9,000 and single digit ownership is very enticing, and I think the more difficult it gets, maybe he'll show up. And the same goes for Tommy. I didn't like Tommy that much to start the week. I'm loving him more and more the more this wind is starting to pick up, because that is what keeps scores lower. And Tommy Fleetwood, when he gets into these single digit kind of scoring, environments, he tends to thrive. So I might sprinkle Hatton in a few times too, but I'm pretty much out on everyone else in this range. In the 8s, we've got Cam Smith, Tony Finau, Tom Kim. Wrapping it up at the bottom, we got U.S. Open champions Matt Fitzpatrick and Wyndham Clark. So some seriously good options in this range. I'm a big Tom Kim fan. Bet him outright as well, $8,300, second at the Open Championship last year. His ball striking has been really, really good entering the week. Maybe he shows up with the putter a little bit. Maybe he doesn't, but I think he's got a great chance to have. His ceiling is pretty high too. So in majors in particular. Not so much this year, but last year he showed us what he can really get up to. I think he's peaking at the perfect time.
Yeah, and it's just so interesting to me how, there's only 7 guys in this 8K range. I think the 5K range has just kind of not weakened, but it's kind of thin, this range out a lot. And so I just, there's something about Cam Smith on links courses, your boy, that I just cannot get away from. And I know he's been bad off the tee. If he can just club down, if he can just find fairways, we know how magical he is with the short game. And that's kind of the conundrum for me, because I'm kind of decreasing short game in my weights this week a little bit. Ball striking I think is so important. But I just think, just the magic that he has on these types of courses where you have to shape your shots, you have to be creative. A guy who, growing up in Australia, obviously windy conditions. So I'm going to play some Cam Smith. I think Tony Finau is probably my favorite play. When you look at 3 consecutive top 10s, he's the 5th best iron player in this field, and he's gained. Putting has been his weakness. Short game, he's struggled for whatever reason, but he's gained putting in 3 straight. He's the 3rd best links player in this entire field. If you go back and look by strokes gained average, he just plays well in these courses and plays well in the wind. And so for me, if Tony can just putt to his baseline, I think he's going to contend this week. So I think he got some upside there. I agree with you on Tom Kim. He is a very young career, not a lot of sample size, but he has the 2nd best strokes gained average on links courses out of anyone in this field. And again, he's a guy who showed up to majors. He's got top 30s in all 3 majors this year. He's gained on approach, which is another thing I look at. He's gained on approach in 8 straight majors. And so I think his ball striking accuracy will give him a chance to contend this week. And I think my favorite play down here in the lower 8Ks is going to be Shane Lowry. And I don't know what you have on him with. Oh, yeah, I'm seeing him at right around 10, 11%, which I would be shocked if it's that low. But I think this is just a really similar course to Portrush, where he won the Open. Again, accuracy off the tee, prowess with his irons. His recent form has been really good this year, kind of in these elevated events, majors, 9th at the Travelers, 19th U.S. Open, 6th at the PGA. So I think we're going to see a great week from Shane Lowry.
I think so too. And he's same as Tommy Fleetwood for me, where these conditions are just stacking up even better and better for him. So I think Shane Lowry absolutely needs to find his way onto your DFS pool. I think he's very affordable. And like you said, the form it's been good because he's been super consistent and inside the top 20 all the time. But that, DFS play wise, I think that's fine. We haven't really seen him really contend during that stretch so much. So, but that's also Shane Lowry's MO. We know that about him. He's $8,200. So it is what it is. I think I'll also be sprinkling in a touch of Wyndham Clark, but I think if he's going to be 10+% owned, maybe not. We'll kind of keep an eye on what ownership comes in tonight, but he's perplexing. And I think his major track record is even more perplexing, with the US Open win, and then pretty much everywhere else it's been rather atrocious. So he showed up nicely at the Genesis. I don't think that's a perfect translation, but maybe he's feeling a bit more comfortable. The putter is starting to show up, and I think maybe he goes as the putter goes. So if you want to take a gamble on him, take a gamble on him. The 7K range starts with one of the best links golfers of our time, Ron, Jordan Spieth, but he's run out of time, it seems. So let's chat about him right away, and then we can kind of dive into the rest of these guys, because the course, the tournament history, the links history is phenomenal, but he's not playing good golf right now.
Yeah, and just going back really quick to Wyndham Clark, one thing I noticed about him is he kind of only plays one ball flight, and he kind of has this really tight fade. And I think he's a guy who he has upside at that price, but I think in windy conditions where you have to go both ways and shape the ball, I think that's kind of scaring me off him. But yeah, Jordan Spieth is a guy who, if he would have just played well last week, if he would have, he didn't even make the cut at the Scottish Open, which again, not a true links course, but man, it's just tough right now. to have any confidence in Jordan Spieth at all when you look at his, recent finishes. He has a good round here and there, and you think he's back, and then, like you said, when you saw him at the John Deere on Sunday, it just completely, nothing from him. And so that kind of inconsistency will kill you at a course like this, where you have to have every shot in the bag, and I just don't think he has it right now. So that links history, his Open history, the best in this field, is very tempting, but I just think right now with this form, you have to pass. And in fact, if we're just looking kind of at, 70, 600 and above here, Joaquin Niemann is interesting to me with his low ball flight, but I can't get there with him with his, he still has to show it to me in a major. I think Bobby Mack, if he didn't win last week, I would probably be on him, but I'm going to go. I think Brian Harman at 7,600, I think this is great value on a player who's kind of showing he's pretty good on links courses, and obviously,
what is this price?
7,600.
Yeah, I know it's.
Yeah, and obviously, okay. So he won the Open last year, 21st at the Scottish last week. He's had a couple other high finishes, and for me, kind of Liverpool is a pretty good comparison last year to this course, where you have to be accurate off the tee, approach play scrambling. All these skills kind of play right into his strengths, and just kind of the bulldog mentality that he's known for. I just think it fits with kind of these other underrated champions who have kind of come from nowhere. And so I think he's a guy who I'm going to play very comfortably, and probably the only guy up here in the upper 7Ks for me.
Yeah, I think you spot on there. It's shocking to see him at $7,600, and the ownership is around about 10%, 11% only. So if that's going to be the case, I'm all in, and maybe quite severely too, because he seems rather safe too for this kind of a play, with the upside in Open Championships that a lot of people are not crediting him for, hence his price tag. So let's go to Brian Harman. Where do you have him ranked in your model, Ron? I've got him 18th, based off of major track record and stuff like that.
He is number 17 for me. So yeah, right there. Yep.
And DFS ranking is 23rd. So there's a bit of value there. But again, the 5K range making it difficult to kind of sequence these guys correctly. But yeah, we'll have to wait and see. Another name right underneath him, $7,500, Cameron Young. This guy, I think his first win is going to be a major. And he's got that second place finish that he snuck in at the St. Andrews Open. We'll see. He's got the total driving that you're looking for at a venue like this. He's been playing some good golf. We know what he likes to do on these links courses. I'm in. I love Cam Young in majors. We'll take a gamble on him at $7,500. Corey Connors at $7,300 is also very enticing for his top 20 ability. He just loves to find himself inside the top 20 in majors. Does not have a major top 5, I believe, in his last 17 starts. So tough scenes there for the upside, but at $7,300, I can get away with that. Aaron Rye for some safety at 73. And then my leverage play, my hallelujah, please save the day kind of guy is going to be Will Zalatoris at $7,200. I understand the back is broken. Just put a cortisone shot into that little spinal cord somehow, and let's see what this final major can bring him. I've called him Brooks Light, Brooks very light, and he shows up at majors, Ron, not so much this year, but I think with low scoring conditions, I can see Willie Z kind of maybe just being a flash in the pan this week, back to where he's been and doing his thing. And then one more name, Mathieu Pavon, I think has incredible upside. We saw what he did nicely at the US Open, which is kind of linksy. So he's got a taste for some major success. He could completely bomb out like he did at the Scottish, I think, and then show up again this week. So I'll take a gamble on him. I've got a top 5 on him at 30-1. So I love that. I think he's showing tons of upside for value that's $7,000 flat in this field. So hit me with the rest of your lower 7K options. Yeah.
And Willie Z with surprisingly only one Open appearance. He finished 28th back in 2022. So yeah, I agree with you. He is Mr. Major, but we've seen a few chinks in his game this year. So yeah, he's a guy that I am not playing, but I wish you luck with that.
Won't be playing a lot of him. He's going to be in maybe a very chalky lineup. I'll put him in there.
As, good idea.
That guy.
Kind of the upside guy who can come out of nowhere and hopefully,
And he did have a second open that he withdrew from, Ron, with a back
injury.
He, he was playing quite nicely and actually had to withdraw from that too. So, he knows how to handle these kind of courses.
Yeah, so Corey Connors is like the biggest question mark for me of do I play him or not? And so, like, can he turn the corner and actually contend? I'm still skeptical, but this price might be too good with his floor. The flip side to playing him is I'm seeing 15 to 18% ownership. So he's been close, but again, like you said, the upside just hasn't been there. He's another guy that checks every box, but still in 4 opens, he only has 1 top 15. And so I think it's very promising that he's gained around the green in 4 straight. Finished 10th just last week at the Scottish. He gained in all 4 categories. Again, he's got a staggering streak of, I think it's at like 26 consecutive made cuts, 3 top 10s over his last 6. And so, yeah, it's just like, you're almost banking on, is this going to be the one? But again, he's so cheap. That's the flip side of this, is like you could get away with playing him and getting another top 15 and you'll be fine, top 20. So I think right below him, I think Thigala is kind of similar. Great price, except I think Thigala has more of the upside, whereas Connors has the better floor. And so, Thigala, again, you see the upside last week, 4th at the Scottish. He's had higher finishes in majors than Connors. So it's kind of like, if you want to play more conservative, take Connors. If you want to shoot for upside, if you're playing, in the Millie Maker, I think Thigala would be your guy here. I think it's a great price for the upside that he brings. And I think another guy you want to talk about upside, Akshay Batiasin right there at 7K flat. Now, again, a lot of these tournaments were events in the Caribbean. You're talking about Corrales, Puerto Rico. But Akshay is the best win player in this field if you're looking at strokes gained per round in winds of 19 plus miles per hour. He's a top 10 ball striker in this field. So I love his skill set here. I think he kind of fits this course very well. Obviously, he does not have the open experience. He does not have much links experience. But again,
and very nice in the majors this year.
So I just kind of think all that wind experience, though, is enough for me to sprinkle him in and maybe even get up to around 10% of playing him. So I just love his upside here. And so, yeah, those are kind of be my guys here in the bottom of the 7K range. And I'll also say Alex Noren really quick as well. He's got a really sneaky good open finish history. So I think Alex Noren, kind of more conservative play again, but I think Alex Noren is almost a guaranteed cut or made cut. Again, you could take a top 20, top 30 from Alex Noren if he's kind of your last guy in.
Yeah, and $7,200, it's not often a guy like that just makes his way into the field last minute. So any kind of content that was made prior to that won't have Noren being mentioned. Usually ownership is a bit lower as a result. So I'm a fan, Ron. I'll be playing Alex Noren alongside you there too. Sixes, where we've got some fun names. I always think about Davis Thompson when I think about you, Ron. We've got him, when he showed up when you won that big tournament at the Amex, he was your guy in T2 behind Rahm. So maybe a Davis Thompson Rahm one for the memory bank there, for good times, the old times. And I think he's interesting. T9 at the US Open, that was a nice top 10 for him there. And then like Sepp Straka, he went and won the John Deere Classic, and then Sepp finished T2 at the Open last year. Maybe the John Deere Classic's a little springboard into some Open success. Unlikely, but I'll be playing some Davis Thompson. Sungjae Im is coming in preposterously high owned at $6,900, and I want the people to look at his major track record before you decide to play a Sungjae Im that might be 20% owned at $6,900, Ron. So big discussion point there. It's an easy fade for me just based off of that. What's your take on Sungjae?
Oh, I'm fading him so hard. Not playing him in a single lineup. Played well last week, but like you said, he just if you just go back and look at his past experiences in these events, he was 20th last year, and then we have 2 pretty bad performances, and then not much links experience. So I'm out on Sungjae. That price or that ownership is just ridiculous. I'm seeing him at 21% right now. So I just think there's so many other good options around him. And, you got a guy like Louis Oosthuizen, who's sitting here at 6'8". I mean, what are we doing with him? I mean, I know it's on live, but he has 3 top 4s in the last 3 months. And then if you look in his non-live events, he has 2 wins and a runner-up. And that includes a win at the Dunhill Links back in November, which, again, Links style course, very similar to what they're playing at Troon this week. Now, can he still do it on the big stage? That's another question. But let's not forget, this is the major he's had the most success in his career. He won the Open in 2010. He's got 2 runner-ups since then. He was 3rd in 21. Even last year when he just played horrible, he was still 23rd at Liverpool. So I think he's kind of sneaking up there in the ownership. I'm seeing about 13% now. But man, I could really see him contending. I got 110 to 1 on him when odds first opened, and I kind of couldn't believe that. I think he's down to like 55 or 60 right now. But love Louis. And then I think right below him, Adam Scott. Last week's result, when he finishes runner-up at the Scottish, I think that's huge for his confidence. I think he kind of knows he's running out of chances here, and he's been sneaky good on links courses. So Adam Scott to me is another one at 67. And then I'm always going to come back to Ryan Fox. He's a top 20 performer on these types of courses, tons of experience. I think similar to Corey Connors, I think his upside is limited because he just kind of can't seem to get over the hump. But I do like him. And yeah, there's a lot of interesting names that I know a lot of people are playing. I am not playing Russell Henley. I know he's very popular, but he ranks 102nd for me in links course history. Yeah, so I do not understand the love for him at all. But then you got just so many names on here that I'm going to be sprinkling in, whether it's, Benny On. I know he had a rough week last week, but he typically does perform well in these events. Dean Burmeister seems to always be there recently. He's at 67. Nikolai Højgaard, 67. And then, you got Keegan Bradley here, his first tournament since being named Ryder Cup captain. So not the first name you think of when you think links courses, but be really interesting to see, how he comes out this week.
What about some flop lag on Tom McKibben at $6,500? I think everyone was 20% owned Tom McKibben at the Scottish Open. Does that happen again this week? I doubt it. $6,500 though at a golf course that kind of suits his game off the tee. Let's see what Tom McKibben can get up to, Ron. I like him at 65. I'm right there with you with Benny On. He played great on Thursday, and I was like, okay, let's go. And then he shot 5 shots worse the following day. It's like, where is this coming from, Benny? Completely missing the cut there, but it's okay. Love Dean Burmeister as well. He's been pretty solid in some Open Championships in the past too. I was interested in Seabears, but that injury kind of WD was a little painful, and I don't think I can get to him there. So the bottom of the sixes, Ron, is quite interesting. There's not too many names. Henrik Stenson, does he entice you at all?
Yeah, so this is like the international flavor range for me. I guess a lot of these guys I've already said are kind of non-U.S. players, but I agree with you on McKibben. I think another one, Jordan Smith, who played poorly last week. I know a lot of people like him. He's the guy who always tends to show up in majors. Very used to playing in these conditions, sitting right there again, like McKibben at 6,500. I think a guy like Ewan Ferguson, who kind of coming off his win a couple weeks ago, missed the cut last week. So I think we see a bounce back this week. And then, I think Henrik Stenson, maybe reliving some of those 2016 memories. I still have him even in this day, 2024, still as the 10th best approach player in this field. Kind of every other area of his game has been struggling, but I think 6,200 is a really good price. And then Victor Perez, another guy who, I have ranked in the top 40 of my model, sitting way down here. A guy who kind of loves these types of courses. And even Thorborn Olesen, who sitting there as well in the bottom of this range, another guy with tons of links experience, has played all over the world, has played in multiple majors. So there's some guys you could really sprinkle down here and kind of go, even the stars and scrubs, I feel very comfortable with, Victor Perez, McKibben, and a guy like Nikolai Højgaard being the bottom 3 in my lineup and just kind of mixing and matching up top. So I think that's a very viable strategy this week.
And while you're at it, Ron, tossing Lucas Glover at $6,000. I love him as like a very contrarian play as well. Put him in those chalky lineups that you kind of stacking at the top there. Glover's not going to provide you with too much safety, but he's kind of popped in open championships in his career. Hasn't played too many recently, but I think in his last 6 or so, we've got 2 top 20s. If you take a peek at what he's got up to now, the second top 20 is like 2012 or something like that, but he hasn't been playing good enough golf to show up at the Open Championship. Now he finally does, and I'll take a gamble on him. He's $6,000, and he's been playing solid in majors, so he's one of these guys where you're going to just get your nice top 40 from him potentially. So I've bet him at plus 240 for a top 40 as well for Glove, man. In the fives, I was filtering by approach play over the last 20 rounds. Ben Griffin is like 6th in this field, Ron. So he's really playing some good golf. I think this is his 3rd major or 4th major. He's only played 3. So missing a bit of history there. But if you think about a venue that kind of suits Ben Griffin's scrappy, scrambling kind of ability, this might be the opportunity for him to kind of get in the mix at $5,900.
And here's another bonus thing with Griffin. So he's got the eye issues, right? Where the sunlight hurts him. He's got to wear the shades. He flat out told me, because I asked him on the putting green at the Rocket Mortgage in Detroit, he said he wishes every tournament could just be played in cloudy weather. He said he feels so comfortable. Like he's fine with the shades in the sun, but he wishes he could just play in cloudy weather. And so, look, here we are at the Open. We may see a little bit of sunshine here and there, but, as everyone knows, we're going to see cloudy conditions. And, yeah, he's a top 50 player in my model. He's been sneaky good lately. I just think, off the tee where he can club down and find fairways here. I think his short game, his scrambling ability kind of saves him a lot, which, again, is perfect for kind of these difficult scoring conditions. And so second you on that. Love him this week. And my other guy, not going to be a whole lot down here for me, but I think Matthew Jordan at 5,800 is a guy who hasn't missed a cut in the Open before. Very young player, but he is top 30 for me on links courses. So he's a guy who kind of really popped in my model as well. So I love Matthew Jordan. And yeah, when you get down here, there's a lot of interesting kind of DP World Tour guys that I'm not going to probably push. I think you're kind of pushing the limit if you get too far down here. So Jordan and Griffin are my 2 main ones in the 5Ks.
Cool. I'll rattle off a few more that I'm kind of interested in. Alexander Bjork hasn't played in too many majors, but I think this kind of venue can suit his skill set. Not the longest off the tee, very accurate kind of guy. Has a top 40 in one of his 3 majors played so far, so I don't mind that. Austin Eckroat has 2 top 40s in his major track record, only having played 4 times, $5,700. You never know what he gets up to. And then some Champions Tour darts over here at 56 with Stuart Sink, and then $5,100 Ernie Els. If you're just looking for someone to just get through to the weekend for you at minimal cost and let the other 5 guys go, the Big Easy is your boy. I've named my dog after Ernie, and it's always fun to chat about him on the show. Won last week's Open or major championship on the PGA on the senior tour there, and I kind of wanted to make a post about Bobby Mack versus Ernie Els because they both won a tournament. Ernie, in his elderly ages, decided to not even run up a bar tab. He said, "I'm flying to Scotland. I'm going to go play in the Open Championship." Bobby Mack, who knows if he's even showed up to the golf course yet? The guy's probably passed out under a bottle of whiskey somewhere still, but I just thought I'd mention that. I'm a big fan of Ernie's decision to take this week seriously at $5,100. That's obviously going to come and bite me back at some point, but we'll see what happens. So
I've heard a lot of people kind of building him up a little bit, so I think you might have something there. And yes, I'm glad you mentioned Austin Eckroat because he's a guy growing up in Oklahoma. He's played in these windy conditions a lot, and just looking at my numbers here, he's top 15 ball striking in this field for me. So he's a guy off the tee on approach, guy who's kind of shown some moxie in these big events, and so I really like that play there.
Yeah, let's see what he can do. Those are the guys that you're needing with that chalky 9K range. Toss a few of them in there to really kind of make your lineups a little different and make them purr. So, Ron, what are you most excited for this week? Let's talk a bit of just shop here, like some fun stuff. Like, what since this is your favorite Open or favorite major? What about it makes it so enticing to you?
Yeah, I mean, I just think first of all, just this is where golf was invented, and so these fans, this course, just being a former history teacher, this just the historical aspect I think is just so cool, and yeah, just the unpredictability, the bounces you're going to get. Obviously, it might play softer, so we may not see as much run out in fairways where we have good drives, going into the leaping and bounding into the gorse. We may not see that as much, but yeah, just the bunkers. I think on PGA courses we don't see. We see guys just hitting out of bunkers like we often
3
see
feet.
guys.
Yeah.
We see guys shooting to get into the bunkers because they're so easy to get out of compared to other areas around the greens, and so this is not the case at a course like this. Like these are true. One stroke penalty if you get in some of these. Guys may have to hit out. Play backwards. They may have to play lateral. So I just think these just it's just different. And so I think we need more of these tests where it's not just these cookie cutter courses, but you have to have some strategy. You have to account for the wind. You have to shape your ball. And yeah, you're going to have to sink some putts on these slow greens. And so I just think the variability and how unpredictable, a course like this can be combined with the history is kind of what excites me.
I think it would be very cool if the PGA Tour took like a month over in Europe and played strictly links courses. Like
Hmm.
they're looking for new and enticing things to do on the schedule. Why not continue a little bit, like maybe a signature event after this week somewhere else, or some, if they're in the mood for? I don't like signature events after a major, but maybe a few more prior to the Open Championship would be fun. Letting these Americans go and play on these courses that are so unique that all the Europeans have been on, and it also is just so fun not having to, you can like lay in bed and fall asleep to the golf, at nighttime if that's your kind of thing, and wake up early or whatever, or just completely deprive yourself of sleep and just watch it all. So I love it, and all the old dogs and the ability, like Tom Watson, from when Stuart Sink beat the 60-year-old man by a shot, or like on that final hole, Tom made a bogey to kind of get into a playoff with Stuart Sink, and it's just so cool to see how this course allows everyone to kind of show up. Maybe not this one in particular, but you never know. Someone could play some inspired golf and kind of do their thing. So I'm looking forward to it. Who is the winner this week, Ron?
I'm going to stick to my top play. Colin Morikawa raises the claret jug this week.
All right. I'll go a little contrary and say Tom Kim does this thing. I think, that would be such a good start to his young career, winning this one this week. So awesome stuff. Tell the people what's cooking for the rest of you over there at betspertsgolf.com, Ron.
Yeah. Time's running out here again. We got tee off in we got about 10 hours here, less than 10 hours. So
Yes,
yeah, DraftKings article coming out, and kind of keep monitoring ownership, monitoring the weather. We got a pretty active Discord here at Betsperts Golf, so we'll keep putting stuff in there as well. And if you haven't joined yet, come try the rabbit hole. We got a lot of additions coming in the off season as well, so really looking forward to continuing to build that out.
Awesome stuff. Awesome. Well, you can catch me on X at the Model Maniac. I'll have all my Rotoballer stuff out there for y'all. I'm thrilled. I can't wait. I'm going to enjoy every minute of this. Have to savor it. It's a final major for a long time. I kind of spoke about it like dating your high school sweetheart, and now you're going off to college after this kind of thing. We're going to see if we can make it last until the Masters, but the Olympics and the President's Cup are going to be some enticing distractions. So we'll have a good time doing all of that. So till I won't be here next week, I'll be biking across Iowa for 7 straight days. So think of me while you guys are prepping for the 3M. I'll be dying in the middle of a cornfield somewhere. So till then, pivot your face off, and we'll catch you guys in 2 weeks' time myself, Ron, next week.